All right, so today we are going to be test firing the X-68 Stormtrooper build, or Stormtrooper. We're going to be firing these 9.9 gram Riot balls. So I'm going to go ahead and weigh these up again because this last batch that I ordered, some of them were closer to 10. I even had, I think, a few that were 10 grams. So today we're going to be limited to the use of 2 magazines since I haven't replaced that one that broke on me in the last video. Won't be taping these into the gun again. I guess I'll just be trying to catch them before they fall out of the gun, I guess. Yeah, so we will just reload one of the magazines so that we can do 18 shots or 3 magazines. So let's weigh up 18 of these 9.9 gram and see what they're running. So this one here, first one is 9.87. We'll call that 99. 2, 9.86. We'll call that 9.9. 9.92. We'll call that 9.9 as well. A little over. 9.87. We'll call it 9.9. 9.85. We'll call it 9.9. 9.86. We'll call it 9.9. In the last test, I did use 10 grams when I was doing running the numbers for the joules. So this time it looks like we'll probably be using 9.9 again for the math, to do the math. Hopefully the camera is picking up the digital display this time. I've noticed that when I run the LED, overhead LED light, it seems to be washing it out. So my apologies if it's not clear. Hopefully it's clearer now. I got this as close as I dare get it. So, all right. So that's the first 6 rounds. For the second 6 rounds, 9.88. We'll call it 9.9. 9.88 again. 9.87. We'll call it 9. And let's see, 3 more. 9.92. We'll just use 9.9. 9.87 again. 9.9. 9.94. Yeah, we'll just use the 9.9 to keep it consistent this time. I think that's what we're going to run with for the math anyways. These are reused, so they're a little marked up. 9.8, but otherwise they're in good condition. 9.88. 9.86. 9.88. 9.86. And the last one, the 18th round of Riot balls, 9.88. So we're going to use 9.9. I'm not going to do the 10 gram. We'll go with that. I think that's fair enough. Hopefully this came out on the video, and next we'll see you down in the shooting range. See you down there, folks. Okay, before we go down to the range, I am going to preheat the 2 times 12 gram Umrix cylinder that I have remounted to the top of the gun to balance out the weight better. We're going to go ahead and I have the lithium-ion battery installed, and we'll go ahead and let that preheat and let that do 4 cycles. The first one may take a little while before it turns off the heating cycle, and then it should start cycling a little quicker. So we'll let that preheat for a bit, and yeah, we'll just keep the camera on it, let it preheat 4 cycles, and we'll go from there. Then once we have it preheated, we'll take it downstairs and we'll go ahead and puncture the handle first. The idea with the handle 12 gram is to use it mostly to fill in the expansion chamber in the car stock, in the Valken car stock. So it'll fill that, pressurize, and set the bolt in place. And then once that's done, it will, then I'll go ahead and I'll puncture the two 12 grams that are in the Umeric cylinder, which then in turn should just provide us with additional volume naturally, but more importantly, in this case, doing it this way so that we get the additional pressures. We're going to have a pressure drop when, from the 12 gram in the handle when it's punctured. Naturally, it will drop in pressure a little bit because it's going to have to fill the expansion chamber that's within the Vulcan car stock. And we'll just let this cycle through. We're in heating cycle number 1. It probably would help if let me take a temperature reading, make sure nothing's getting too hot. All right, so we're at the top of the tank, external part of the tank, just above the thermal, the ceramic heating element. We're getting about 269 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. The back of the 2 times 12 gram cylinder is already sitting at about 94 degrees. Obviously, I don't have the Bluetooth sensor installed today because I actually have 2 12 gram Umerix cartridges installed. We'll show an external reading of about 97, I guess. Let's take a reading over here. We're at about 96 there. We're still in our first preheating cycle, as you can see with the red. Whoop, okay, so we just kicked off on our first preheating cycle. That was about, I don't know, about 3 minutes. So the first cycle took about 3 minutes to heat up, to get the thermal switch to 40 degrees Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit. So let me feel how warm this is. Feels nice and warm. It's getting there. It's getting there, folks. All right. We're at about 90 degrees right here. At about 100 degrees out here. Of course, I'm sure in the internal, the CO2s are probably not sitting at that temperature yet. Oh, maybe they are. I mean, they were room temperature, 72 probably degrees, 72 degrees or so in the office here. So it probably wouldn't take that long for them to warm up to 100 degrees. And that's the goal. We get them around 100 degrees. The previous test with the Bluetooth sensor internally shows that, within about 10 minutes, we can get that internal temperature in the cylinder at 100 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, the heating cycle's still off. The red heat active light is off. Of course, our 12 volt power light is on, the green light. And again, the flow of power comes from the lithium ion pack, the small, about 2300 milliamp, 12 volt lithium ion pack. Comes in, goes through a 4 amp fuse first, and then it feeds the line side of the switch here. And then when you turn the switch on, it sends 12 volts first to the green power light, so we know we have power, and then it also sends it up to the line side of the thermal switch, which is on the back side up here of the Umeric cylinder. And then from there, if it's calling for heat, okay, so if it's calling for heat from there, it actually will power the ceramic heating element. And it also will indicate there's another wire that goes up to the thermal switch on the load side of the thermal switch, or the output of it. And it also picks up our 12 volts so that we can illuminate the heat active LED. And then really the control of the whole circuit's relatively simple. It's all done through a thermal switch, one that's got a continuous duty cycle rating on it. Same one that you use in microwaves and home furnaces. Gas furnaces will use these. So they're pretty reliable, dependable. Let's see what we got for temperature now. Second heat cycle has not activated yet. We're sitting at about 94 degrees. Oh, just activated. So here's our second cycle. I may not even wait for 4 cycles. Once it completes the second cycle, I'll leave the circuit on, leave the switch on, and we'll go downstairs and we'll start, we'll puncture everything and start shooting. I think I'm gonna be all right with that. 2 cycles should be good. By the time I puncture this downstairs, it'll probably be like 3 cycles. All right, we're approaching 200 degrees now, just above the heating element. This way we don't have this video be too much longer. Although it only took 10 minutes. We're at 7 minutes, 7.5 minutes on this video. First 30 seconds at least before I flip the switch on. Down this end, we're at about 90 degrees, it looks like. (280 degrees Fahrenheit, just above the heating element here. So it's putting out some heat. Again, this particular ceramic heating element is nice because it naturally impedes current. Its internal impedance will, it current limits. All right, so second cycle has completed. You can see the LED is off. So at this point, I think we're going to go downstairs. I'm going to cut, and we'll take out downstairs. By then, there'll probably be hopefully it'll be doing a third cycle. We'll let it cycle out down there. All right. So a third cycle just kicked on. As I got down here, we got a third cycle heating of third cycle kicking on. So this is what I'm calling 2.0 version of the X-68 Stormtrooper. I did some changes to the plumbing. We now have the gauge mounted over here so that I can see it a little easier. Of course, we got the small, hard to read gauge on the MCS 88 90 gram on-off switch. And I remounted the tank up here. I went with the quick pierce tank instead of the one that you have to screw, you have to tighten down by hand. Decided to go with that. Everything should be secure enough for me to give it a good hit. Using Umrix 12 gram cylinders in the handle today, and in the Umrix 2x 12 gram cylinder. So this is the setup with an ion battery coming into the control. Oh, okay, so the third cycle just completed. Coming into the control box, going through the switch, the LEDs, back up to the thermal switch, which is controlling the operation of the whole circuit, which is right up here. Neatened up the wiring. So this is Gen 2 CO2 preheater, and it's 2.0, X-68 2.0. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and puncture the handle. Puncturing the handle is going to give me, this is so much more balanced now. Interrupt that thought process. Much more balanced. Unfortunately, I still have problems with magazines dropping out of it. I got to fix that. Hopefully it's fixable. But yeah, it feels so much better not having the weight hanging off the side, having it on up top, much better. So Yeah, so we'll puncture the handle. With the handle gas is designed mostly to just fill in the car stock, right? The expansion chamber that's inside this rear stock. We will have a pressure drop. Usually it's around 600 psi is what we get on here, which will confirm that. So let's go ahead and puncture the handle. It's off heating cycle now. All right, looks like a good puncture. So once you puncture it, this on and off is in its off position, so naturally you're not going to get a reading here yet. We'll get a reading there once I puncture the two in here in the Umrex. But we do have 600 psi right there. Okay, so that's from the handle cartridge. Now we're going to puncture the 2 times 12. Okay, that has risen. You can see that bottom dot right there. Okay, so it looks like we should have both of these cartridges properly punctured. Again, I'm using Umrex branded cartridges, 12-gram cartridges. I'm not using, I'm all out of the Crossman, which were giving me some problems. We are over 1,000 psi, hard to make out. You look at the small switch, excuse me, the small gauge right here. It's just above the 1,000 psi. So we got 1,000 psi from preheating these 12 grams, about 4 cycles of preheating. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave the preheating cycle on so it can take care of any of the refrigerant properties from the gas. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to turn this on now so I don't forget. And okay, I hear gas going. All right, we're in full on position. All right, I think we're in full on position. Yeah, all right, seems to be as far as I can go. This thing is so hard to move. All right, yeah, okay. Yeah, it's tough under pressure. It's still reading about 1,000, just below 1,000 psi on the small gauge. I don't know, can the camera even pick that up? Okay, so we're still reading about, I think, 1,000 on there. And we're reading, but we're not getting the 1,000 here, though. Here we're getting 800, it looks like. So it went from 600 to 800 here. But we are maintaining 1,000 right here on this gauge. Again, I don't know. Both these gauges we're agreeing with each other on my last test. Now I have a higher pressure here than I'm seeing over there. So we're going to go ahead and shoot it and see what happens. And we'll take some numbers. Again, I'm expecting these magazines to hit the friggin' floor, so which I'm not thrilled about, but let's see how it goes. All right, first mag of 9.9 gram Riot balls. All right, same ones that I weighed upstairs. We're going to use 9.9. All right, so we're loaded, we're hot. CO2 is still cycling, the CO2 preheater is still doing its thing. Everything feels warm, nice and warm. Sitting at 800 psi here, and just under 1,000 psi over here at the on and off switch. All right, let's see what we got. Okay. First shot. Wow, that was loud. 468 feet per second. Shot number 1. I'm still sitting at 800 over here and just under 1,000 on the forward gauge. Goes shot number 2. Oh, all right. So, see what had just happened. All right. We're going to push that back in. I'm going to have to look at it after every shot, I guess, and see what the heck happens with this. So I can figure out how the hell to stop that. Shot number 2. All right, mag dropped right out of the thing. 464 feet per second. I better invest in magazines. I'm going to be buying new mags, I guess. What do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4 left. I don't see anything in there, so... All right, I'm going to put it down for a second. Looks like this one dropped out. So that was 2 shots that I had so far. So I should have, yeah, 4's right then. All right, this other one must have came flying at me. All right. So I'm dropping the friggin' mag. Once we use up some of this pressure, more than likely the mag will stop dropping them. At least that's what it's done before. So let's hope for that anyways. All right, here comes shot number 3. My trap's all messed up. I'm gonna have to fix that. 458 feet per second. Shot number 3. All right, the mag did not drop this time. Okay, so maybe we'll be all right. I'm gonna go fix that trap really quick. All right, that was shot number 3. We'll go on for shot number 4, guys. Let's see what we got here. Shot number 4. Let me adjust the stock back a little bit. Left the cable a little longer so that I could adjust this stock if I needed to. Let's see if that's any better. Yeah, it feels pretty good. If I didn't have to use this X-radar, I could put both hands on this. But I do. All right. Shot number 4, I think we were calling it. Yeah, shot number 4. 450 feet per second. Shot number 4. Comes shot number 5. 444 feet per second. That is loud. Shot number 6 should be the last one. The magazine's still staying in there. So the bag only dropped the first 2 shots. Shot number 6. 432 feet per second. All right, so our mag's dropping, but it didn't, well, the first one, it dropped a little bit. I caught it. The second one, it fell right out of the gun. Falling out of the gun, that's not good. That's why that's why I taped it last time, the last video I did. But you saw what happened to that. Taping it wasn't a good idea. I don't know if I can rig up some loose tape around it so that if it drops, it'll kind of keep it from hitting the floor. And maybe I'll do that. I just don't want to, I mean, I got 1 busted mag. You know, I got 2 left for it. I'm going to have to order a 3rd one. I don't want to keep breaking magazines. So, all right, so that was the first magazine. I imagine those numbers are going to look pretty damn good once I run them, I would think. I would think that first shot's over 100 joules. I would think so anyways. All right, so here's a second mag of 6 9.9 Riot balls. Pressure-wise, we are sitting at preheaters off. Still doing its thing automatically though. Everything still feels nice and warm. Maybe we can take a little quick reading. Again, it's about 60 degrees down here in the basement. So let's take a quick little reading. All right. We're at about 87 at the back of the tank, 101 or 99, 100 degrees at the front of the tank. Down here at the stainless steel, the temperature drops to about 69, 70. Looks like we peaked at 70. We're at 66. So the refrigerant properties of the CO2 is definitely cooling things down. Coming into the back of the X-68, we're at about 74, 75. Okay. About 98 there. We're off heat cycle. All right, so let's we got the second mag in. Let's get the numbers on these now. Mag 2, shot 1. Oh, that's right. I wanted to show the PSI. So, again, not sure if you can see how well you can see that gauge. Where the hell is that gauge? Should be right there. Oh, I got to raise it up higher. There we go. So there's the forward gauge, right? That's reading cylinder pressure. Okay. Oh, just heard the heating cycle kick on again. And then we have the other gauge, which we can read easier that way. Okay. We're still sitting at about 5, 6, 7. Well, I guess it's come down a little bit to about just a little over 700. So I know this gun doesn't seal 100%, so the more I talk, the more gas is bleeding off and we're losing it. So let me pick up the pace a little bit. Mag 2, shot 1. 422 feet per second. Mag 2, shot 2. 410 feet per second. Mag 2, shot 3. 398 feet per second. And we have Mag 2, shot 4. 380 feet per second. Mag 2, shot 5. 368 feet per second. And this should be the last shot. Mag 2, shot 6. 362 feet per second. All right, I'm going to have to reload a magazine because that third magazine I had is busted. The follower piece broke on it, so I don't dare use it. I'm afraid it might get stuck up inside there or something. So let's put this down. We're sitting at just above 500 there. And we're sitting just above 500 here. So now the gauges, now that they're closer in pressure, they're both reading about 600 psi each gauge. Let's put that down carefully. Let's load up 6 more rounds and see if we can get through 6 more. The last 2 tests, no problem. Especially the last test. The last test we got all 18 rounds, three magazines, and then some. So I think we ended up getting like 4 magazines. Although the 4th magazine, the first and second shot were powerful. Were like 33, 40 joules, something like that. The other ones were really kind of low. But well, you know what? Why am I chasing these around? I brought 6 more rounds down instead of picking these up. I got 4 in there. We're just going to go until I get this 3rd magazine, and then I'll kill the video and we'll do the math later. All right, so 3rd magazine of 9.9 gram Riot balls. And let's see what we get for numbers here. Sitting at about 600 psi. Both gauges are showing 600. Actually, oh, that thing's freaking twisting. That thing's doing some calisthenics, man. Some calisthenics. It don't like the Riot balls. Target trap. All right, here we go. Mag 3, shot 1. 342. Spent too much time talking. I'm losing pressure. Shot 2, mag 3. 322. Shot 3, mag 3. 302. Shot 4, mag 3. 286. We're dropping off now. Spent too much time talking. What is this? Shot 4. 264. Shot 5. 240. Oh, that was shot 6. I miscounted. All right, so I don't have any major leaks in this, but I did puncture a cartridge upstairs in the office earlier just to check for any major leaks. Didn't have any major leaks, but I noticed over the course of about 45 minutes, I lost power. Let me turn the preheater off. Don't need that no more. I noticed I lost pressure at the point where I'm sitting there in the office doing some work, and I could hear the bolt reset back. So about 45 minutes. So I have a leak in here somewhere. I suspect it's internal to the gun itself because I hadn't even punctured this yet. So the only part that was pressurized was the internals and up to here. You know, and I didn't hear anything major leaking. So right now we're still sitting at about 300 psi. Close to nothing up here, but about 300 psi here. So let's go ahead and degas. Let me take the mag out. Think there's anything. No, I shot everything. We'll degas. Once we degas fully, that should drop. Yep, there it goes. It's dropping down. It's crawling in like a snail into its shell. Of course, we could use some other analogies too, but we'll keep it clean here. All right. We'll keep it clean. Let's check our punctures here. We got, see what the handle puncture did. Ooh. Kind of could have been a better puncture. It's kind of a small, I guess I should have slammed this thing a little harder. Oh, wait a minute. It's just oil. I heavily oiled this. Yeah. Airgun Ninja, you'll be proud of me. I oiled this so much you can't even see the hole there. It's I went crazy with the oil. But anyways, oil is our friend. All right. So that was a decent puncture. I've seen better, but oh yeah, there's oil coming out everywhere over here. All right. Try not to make a big mess of my sweatshirt. Now, let's see what our punctures were in here, because if they didn't both puncture, then, well, let's turn this off. Yeah, that's one thing, you know, I mentioned it before, but it's one thing about this on and off. Under pressure, it's a bear. It's a bear to turn it on. It's too bad it couldn't be a little easier, you know. It's the one thing I liked about the GOG. Of course, the GOG was more definitely restrictive because I've gotten better numbers since I got that out of the system here. But the GOG was very easy. It was a very short throw. You just turn it and it was done. It was nice. The GOG on and off. All right. Let's see what we got. Even though I was running Umarex, I still chose to add that little black plastic washer as a spacer just to make sure that I punctured. All right, so this was first in, last out cartridge, Umarex branded. Nice tear in there. They probably would have punctured fine without the little plastic washer, but there was room for it. It fit, so I figured let me just give a little more insurance, you know. All right, this was last in, first out. And yes, nice tear in this one. Nice tear. And these are warm. Okay, these are not cold. They're not, I mean, you can see right on the camera, they're not frosty or anything. So, yeah. So I think this is probably a good test. At least everything punctured since I rebuilt this 2.0 version of the X-68 Stormtrooper. And we'll go upstairs and run the numbers and see what we got. I think we're going to find that it's very similar to the last test. It's probably going to be, the first shot's definitely going to be probably 100 joules, I would think. Somewhere slightly north of it, maybe. So we'll cover it in oil. Try not to get my electronic equipment. I should have brought down more shop rags, I should say. All right, we'll see you in the office. We'll run the power numbers. And as always, power numbers are always at the end of the video. So if you're just interested in the numbers alone, fast forward. Okay, we're back in the office to go over the power numbers. Today's test was using the X-68 Stormtrooper 2.0, or what I'm calling the 2.0. I relocated the tank, used the Umarex 2x 12 gram quick puncture tank or cylinder. I relocated that to the top of the gun to balance out the weight, and it sure did. It's so much more comfortable and much more balanced. And we were shooting a total of 36 grams today, 112 gram in the handle, Umarex branded CO2, and 2 of the Umarex branded CO2s in the top mounted tank. The hot shot today in mag number 1, shot number 1, was 468 feet per second, 100.72 joules. Shot number 2, 464 for 99 joules. 458, 96.46. 450, 93.12. 444 feet per second, 90.65. 432, 85.82. Mag number 2, shot 1, was 422 feet per second, yielding 81.89 joules. Oh, I forgot to mention, this was the previous weighed 9.9 gram Riot balls. Mag number 2, shot 2, was 410 feet per second, yielding 77.3 joules. And then we had a 398, 380, 368, and 362 feet per second, yielding 72.84, 66.4, 62.27, 60.26 joules. Mag number 3. Mag number 3 was 342 feet per second, shot number 1, 53.78 joules. Then we had a 322, 302, 286, 264, and ending with 240 feet per second, yielding 47.68 joules, 41.94, 37.61, 32.05, and ending a last shot of 26.48 joules. Okay, the outcome of today's shooting test results. Again, ambient temperature about 60 degrees down there in the basement. All 3 12-gram Umarex branded cartridges punctured. I did use the spacer again just for some additional insurance. No harm, no foul. They punctured great. Used the Gen 2 CO2 preheater prototype was being used. We had about 3 to 4 cycles, preheat cycles, prior to puncturing that Umarex top-mounted tank, which did yield some really good pressure. I think I got 1,000 PSI is what it was showing on the mini gauge. Again, how accurate the mini gauge is, I don't know, but it had been, at least is, coming up with the same pressure as the larger gauge that I have in circuit as well. So about 1,000 PSI is what we realized there. Again, I relocated the Umarex 2x12 tank to the top of the gun, providing it more balanced. I think it looks pretty good too, not too bad. It does make the scope mounted a little higher, but it all worked out pretty good. I introduced the new 88/90 gram MCS branded on and off switch to the circuit. Definitely less restrictive than the GOG. However, it does seem to be a little harder to operate under pressure. I've noticed that. I did again have problems with the magazines dropping out of the gun. That was experienced on the first and second shot only. Once we got through those 2 higher power shots, I didn't even see the magazine even start to come out at all. So still got to work on that, figure out what the source of that problem is, and see if what the fix is going to be. Preheated CO2 in the Umerix tank yielded 1,000 psi on the mini gauge. Once the valve was closed or turned on, the larger gauge went from 600 psi to 800 psi. Still not seeing that 900 I saw on test 4 final, I think it was, that video. So I don't know what to make of that. I had like a 200 psi difference across that circuit between the two gauges. I gotta quite figure that out because I did have lower power numbers in this test compared to the previous test I did on January 30th, I think, 30th. So if you want to look at that video, the previous test, I had 105 joules and definitely had higher feet per second. And although that one was only 800 psi as well. Maybe it was the test before that I saw 900. Anyways, I'm rambling now. One of the tests I was showing 900 psi, but I did see 1,000 on the mini gauge. So that to me, again, shows proof in the pudding that preheating definitely yielded higher pressure increases. I mean, I'm not going to scoff at that. 1,000 psi sounds good to me for CO2. And again, remember guys, these 12 grams are cheap. I mean, it's what, $1.50, barely, under $2 for me to shoot 18 rounds there with some really good numbers, and consistency is really there still even in today's test. The spread across 18 rounds. Again, some lower power numbers compared to the last test. Don't know really what to make of that because actually I preheated much longer today than I did, and I got much higher PSI out of those preheated cartridges today than I did the last test, but yet I got lower numbers. Go figure. It's CO2 is crazy, right? CO2 is like it's more of a dark science than anything else, right? It's hard to repeat things, but yeah, I know I do have a slight internal leak, very slight, but over the course of 45 minutes, I did notice a complete leak of the cartridge that I first put in the handle to test it for leaks. Couldn't hear anything anywhere, but it could have been leaking internal maybe. Maybe my O-rings are starting to wear out internal to the Pistelli, the bolt and valves O-rings. I haven't stripped it down, and I'm still running factory O-rings in this thing. After all the rounds I've put through it, I haven't changed any of those O-rings. So, maybe it's time to change them. So I'll have to strip it all down, do some maintenance to it pretty soon. Anyways, that's the numbers. Thanks for watching. And again, hopefully it was educational, and if not, entertaining. Peace out, gentlemen. Have a great weekend.